Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's webinar that we've entitled Football Job Insights. My name is Diego Valdez, and it is a pleasure to welcome you here tonight. We will be discussing different tips, strategies to optimize your opportunities on how to advance or how to start your career in football business. So we will cover quite a bit tonight. I'm hoping that in 45 minutes we can wrap it up, but if we go a little bit longer, that's okay. Hopefully we try to pack everything in and be respectful of your time. Now, in order for us to make sure that the sound is coming through properly, we always like to do this, and I always like to ask, where are you connecting from? Because number one, this tells us who's connecting from where. We try to find out, where you guys are from and where you're connecting from. And that also tells me that the sound is coming through properly. So I always like to do this at the beginning to have a little bit more of engagement. So in the chat box, go ahead and type the country or the city where you're currently based. And, we will make sure that, we see everybody and that the sound is coming through properly. So let me just have a look here. I see that we have Thomas in Birmingham. Thomas, welcome. Nice to see you here. Carla, hi Carla in LA. Excellent. Edwin in Germany. Nikolai in Dusseldorf, welcome. Wesley in Brasilia. Hey Wesley, long time no see, no speak. Good to see you. Omar, Beirut. Yes, how are you? Good to be in touch. Omar. Roy from Jamaica, my friend, how are you? Nice to see you. Sebastian, Colombia. We have Alsonraj from Nepal. Tumi in London. Hello, Tumi. Good to see you. Marija in Croatia. Hi, Marija. Hope I'm saying your name right. Rita in Portugal. Hi, Rita. Mohammed. Hi, Mohammed from Montreal. Mohammed is going to do our masters as well. So welcome from Montreal. Vitas in New York. Phil. Hi, Phil. Good to see you in Luxembourg. So lots of familiar names. Neo from Johannesburg. Hi, Neo. Atume in Nigeria. Tebo. Hi, Tebo in Cameroon. And Keith Fernandez from USA. Excellent. So nice to see people from all over the world, as usual in these type of webinars. So let's crack on and let's begin. And before I get started, I just want to give you a brief overview on who I am and why am I here. So like I said before, I'm Diego Valdez. I'm the Director General and founder at SBI Barcelona, which stands for the Sports Business Institute. And of course, we're based in Barcelona. And my role is to oversee the Institute and manage, all the programs, all the different events, conferences that we run on a yearly basis alongside with my team. Before that, I used to be a football journalist, and I was accredited to cover numerous FIFA, UEFA finals, La Liga tournaments. And I'm still currently a member of the Spanish Sporting Press Association, even though I'm not operating as a journalist anymore. I do have a master in sports business management from Barcelona, and I also have an MBA previously, and that's a little bit of my background for you to have information as to who's speaking tonight. I know there's a lot of familiar names and faces that I'm sure we're going to see in the webinar tonight. Right, so who are we at SBI? And I'll give a brief introduction, and then we'll begin with tonight's topic at hand. So SBI was founded in 2012. So we've been over 10 years in the market of sports business education. In that time, we've established ourselves as an institute that delivers top quality programs, either in blended formats or online formats, or even some face-to-face formats out of Barcelona. In this time, we've helped over 3,000 students from across 83 plus countries. And we're proud to say that in that time, we've established connections, relationships with executives and organizations, which includes top clubs, federations, tournaments, agencies, and professional football players. Right. These are just a few images as to, what we do, who we are, and I'll talk a little bit more about this later on, but we're not just an institute that delivers online courses. We do much more than that. We do workshops with federations. We do seminars with different stakeholders. And we've had the privilege of collaborating and working with some top professional icons. Here we see a couple of them, like Wes Morgan, who of course lifted the trophy of the Premier League with Leicester City in that miraculous season. He was our student of our Masters. And another name that you probably recognize, or another face rather, is Javier Mascherano, who you see there in the bottom. Javier collaborated with us at SBI, we are glad to say that he formed part of the SBI family. Some of the professional footballers that have done our programs, well, you see some of them here on screen. Perhaps you recognize a few names, a few faces, such as Troy Deeney, who of course played in the Premier League for many years. Matt Ritchie, Carlos Sanchez, among many, many other professional football players, not just in England, but across the world, as well as female professional footballers. As you see there, a couple of names like Daniel van den Donk, the Dutch national team, or Raquel Rodriguez from Costa Rica. Our alumni, we're very proud to say that today work in many football clubs, federations, organizations in sports. And a lot of it is due to not only what they learned at SBI, but also how they used that and how they leveraged their skills, their knowledge, their contacts. And in fact, that's something that we're going to cover today. How you can benefit, not just from an educational program, but how you can benefit from different strategies, tips that can help you optimize a career in football in a competitive landscape, make you stand out. So that's what we're going to be covering. So in order to structure this a little bit more, these are the topics that we're going to be looking at tonight. Because of course, the webinar is not about us. It's not about me. It's about you. It's about delivering value to all of you that are spending, time out of your busy schedules to be with me tonight. So I'll, do my best to provide as much value and pack it in these 45 minutes that hopefully we get this done. So we're going to cover the three main factors that will determine your success in the football industry. So stay tuned for that, because there's three areas that if you work on them, you're going to optimize your opportunities, and we're going to cover those. We're also going to look at the different career paths in football, because as you're going to see tonight, there's many more options in the football ecosystem than just clubs and federations, which is, what most people tend to highlight when they want to work in football or the business of football. We're also going to cover some tips to improve your communication, your networking, and your personal branding. So stay tuned for those. And then finally, we will talk about SBI's Master in Football Business and Management, which is starting on October 16th. I know there's a lot of names here that I see that are going to take part in the course starting in a couple of weeks. So I'm super glad to see you here. And I know there's others that perhaps you're looking at your next step, or you're considering something of this nature, either now or later on in your path. And then at the end, we're going to have a live Q&A session. Something that I'm going to say here at the outset. I'm sure you're going to learn some tips. You're going to learn some strategies that are going to be useful for you. Although I'm also sure that a lot of what I'm going to be talking about here today is going to be reminders. Reminders of strategies, of ways to optimize your opportunities that you already know. But it's always good to refresh them. It's always good to get a different angle on them. And that's what we're going to cover here tonight. So let's just try and understand if you're in the right place. Is this webinar for you? Well, let me ask you this. Do you feel identified? So if you are in the category of number one, which is you're currently studying or you are a recent graduate, if that's your situation, you're in the right place, because this webinar is going to be targeted to you. Likewise, if you're currently working in another job, if you have corporate experience in another sector, and you want to move into the football industry and leverage those skills, leverage that knowledge, you're also in the right place, because what we're going to be covering tonight will also be targeted to you. And then finally, if perhaps you're already in football, if you're involved in the industry, yet you're looking for a way to further develop, to advance your career, or perhaps move into a leadership position in your organization, you're also in the right place, because the tips, the strategies that we're going to cover tonight are also going to be targeted to you. I'll start off with this question, and I always like to pose this question to everybody that does this session with me. And the question is, are you interested in working in the football industry? So take some time to think about that. I think most of you are, right? Because if you're here, it's probably because of this. But then I also like to ask this follow-up question. Are you committed to working in the football industry? And you see the difference, because there's a lot of people that are interested. There's a lot of people that want to work in this industry. However, let's face it, this is a competitive industry. There's a lot of people that want to be involved in it. And it takes commitment. It takes time. It takes resilience. And we're going to talk about these issues in a moment. And I think if you're all here, it means that you are committed and you want to dedicate time to making sure that, you're not one of the people that when things get difficult, when you see that, it's not a straight line, you remain focused and you remain committed to your objective. And if you do, you're going to see that you're going to have many opportunities that lie ahead. However, it is very important to make that difference. And I, especially when I talk to a lot of people that, we mentor at SBI, this is one of the things that I say at the beginning. It's, we need to have a commitment from you, because we can put 50% of the effort, but the other 50% is going to come from you. And if you're ready to put it in, that's when the magic happens. So I think all of you dedicating time out of your schedules and being here tonight with me, it means that you're committed. So that's where we're going to begin. Like I said, some of this you'll already know, but it's good to refresh it. So what does it take to land a job in football? Well, obviously it takes persistence, it takes dedication, hard work. One that I always like to highlight is patience, because it never happens overnight. You're going to have days when you're going to need to put in the hours, put in the work, and maybe you're going to think, wow, this is tough. But if you stick to it, if you continue with your dedication, with your persistence, and above all, your passion, you're going to find that eventually the opportunities are going to start to come. It's like when you plant seeds. You start putting the seeds and you start watering, your plants or your crops or whatever. Eventually, after some time, you're going to start seeing the fruit of that. But it doesn't happen overnight. Well, same thing here. No matter what you do, there's always the strategies that you can put in place, and you can accelerate your path, but it's never going to be a straight line, and it's never going to be an overnight thing. It's going to take some time. But the good thing is that most people that are in this situation have a passion, and that passion is what drives us, is what motivates us, is what keeps us going when you're thinking, well, where do I go next? What's my next move? What's my next step? And when you have that passion, you don't need to, get pulled. You're already pushing yourself on your own. And that's when, you start really seeing the results. When you put in the hard work day in, day out, and you stay committed to your objectives. And we're going to talk about that clarity and having those objectives, as clear as you can in order for you to accelerate your path. So like I said, these are just refreshers. I mean, it's not rocket science. I'm sure all of you understand that this is important. So what are the 3 factors that we like to focus on at SBI and like to state that they're, essential in order to get ahead? Well, let's begin. First off, you need to have knowledge about the football industry and how it works. And what do I mean by this? Well, I'm sure a lot of you already have some knowledge because you read the press, because you follow as fans. And today, in this day and age, you can have a lot of information because of the internet and, all the resources we have digitally. So you can stay and keep up to date and keep abreast relatively, consistently. That said, there's information that is not publicly available and that you need to have if you want to have success in this industry. And the reason is a lot of people that are not working in football now, if you don't have that insider knowledge, if you don't have that information, you're going to be in a disadvantageous position with those people, those candidates that do have this information and this knowledge. So first thing you need to look at is, well, how do I attain this knowledge? How do I gain it? What can I do to, keep myself as best prepared, knowing what's happening in the industry and how it works from the inside? And I'll give you an example. You may know and you may read in the press about a sponsorship deal being signed between a club and a brand, for an example, hypothetical example. You may see it in the press, you may read about the agreement, but what you don't see in the press and what's not publicly, advertised or put out there is what are the clauses in the contract? What type of negotiation takes place? How does this happen? Who are the main, people on the negotiating table when it comes to signing these agreements? So all this information, it's important for you to understand it and know about it, because if you don't have it, you're going to be in a disadvantageous position with those people that are already in the industry or those that do have that. So how do you try to, make up for this gap? Well, some of you may have previous work experience in sport and football, and that's obviously helps. But if you don't, you can try leveraging your previous experience from other corporate sectors. So I know at SBI, for example, we have many students that come from other corporate sectors, whether it's in marketing or sales or finance or HR or law. There's different professionals that do our programs and they leverage those skills because in the business side of football, those skills are needed. At the end of the day, it's an industry, and we're not talking here about tactics and about coaching and what happens on the pitch. We're talking about how do we generate revenue, how do we create business, and of course these skills are transferable. And then the other thing, and this is what we do at SBI, is we have a qualification. We have our master's program, but any industry recognized qualification is going to help because you're going to learn and you're going to have the opportunity to be in contact with professionals that are going to share their experiences, their expertise, their knowledge. And this is input that is very, very valuable because once you go out to the marketplace, you're going to be not only more knowledgeable, but also more confident to know that you're actually understanding some of these issues and some of these concepts that are not publicly available. So that's the first part, knowledge. Second, contacts, network. It's about building relationships. It's about creating, those opportunities to be involved with people that are already working in football or that are already involved in the industry. So how do you do this? Well, some of you may have personal relationships. There's, I'm sure some of you listening tonight perhaps know somebody in football that is working either in a club or in a federation or in a brand or an agency. This is very valuable because you have people that are in your network that are already involved and that could potentially, help you out in the near future. And if you don't have those relationships established, which is, 99% of the people that are looking at optimizing their opportunities, one of their major gaps is that they don't know people in football. And this is normal in any sector. You need to start from the bottom. You need to start building those contacts, those relationships. And there's the right way and there's the wrong way to build those relationships. But how can you do this? Well, you can attend conferences, you can go to football events, obviously courses, anywhere where you're in contact with people that are in the industry and where you can provide, an opportunity to connect, or you're provided an opportunity to connect, and you're also in a situation where you can add value. And keep that in mind because I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on in the webinar. How to add value, how to connect with people the right way, how to avoid mistakes and not just appear like a taker, like someone that is only concerned about themselves and their objectives and what they want to get ahead in. We're going to look at that and, stay tuned as to how best to connect with professionals and how to build your relationships. But of course, we'll delve deeper into that in just a moment. So we talked about knowledge, we talked about network, relationships, and then we also very much focus on this at SBI, and something that you can look at yourselves is try to get some guidance. It's not always easy, but it's important to see if you can get somebody that can be your mentor, that can guide you, somebody that's been in the industry, that can provide you some tips and advice and can, help you and provide some insight as to how to map out a career plan based on your objectives, your aspirations, and someone who understands how the industry works. This is the most challenging part to do on your own because it's not always easy to find a mentor. Like I said, some of you may have people that that you can talk to and you can, go in and ask for advice. And if you do, you're lucky because, like I said, many people that are looking to get into this industry don't have that advantage and don't have somebody they know that they can trust and they can, go to them and say, look, how can you help me? How can you, guide me or mentor me so that I can learn from you. Of course, you can connect with people and try to get a mentor on your own, but it's not always that easy. And this is the truth. Some people don't have the time, others are busy and can't dedicate to to having somebody to mentor. But of course, there's people that are out there who are very much looking to give back. So potentially you can connect with somebody that can be your mentor or at least provide you some advice and some guidance. So these are three areas that I think are important for you to think about, reflect on. How can I optimize my knowledge? How can I amplify my network? Who can I turn to for some career guidance? And start thinking about this. And if you're seeing these as gaps, we'll try to fill them in some manner because they're going to help you. They're going to help you accelerate your path. So, what are the jobs available in the football industry? Are there really that many jobs in football? Well, yes and no. It's a sector that is very competitive. It's a sector that a lot of people want to get in, and many people want to work in the clubs, in the leagues, in the federations, because this is the more glamorous side of football. This is where most people that are, especially the younger people that are very ambitious and very driven, they want to work in these organizations. But the reality is that there's many more opportunities, and sometimes it makes more sense to start somewhere else than at a major football club or a federation or a league, etc. So we're going to look at that. Just to give you an idea, this is a little bit dated because it's from 4 or 5 years ago, but I kept the stats because nonetheless, it gives us an idea as to the ecosystem and the landscape and the marketplace. So this was a report by a company called AT Consulting, and it was done, like I said, about 4 or 5 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And it said that approximately 550,000 sports-related companies exist across 204 countries around the world. Now, obviously, this can change. More opportunities and more companies and more, institutes appear, and some of them, don't continue. So this is a little bit of a ballpark stat, but it gives us an idea as to what types of opportunities are out there at a global level. The same report mentioned that $600 billion are estimated worth as far as the industry is concerned worldwide. So it's an industry that moves a lot of money, particularly at the elite level. The further down you go, obviously, the less revenue and the less business is being generated. However, this tells us that it's an industry that keeps growing in many ways, keeps evolving, and it's important to understand how it's changing. And then roughly 10 million people are employed in the sports industry worldwide. Again, give or take, this is something of a ballpark figure, but like I said, it gives us an idea as to what type of numbers do we have there. So, look at this picture. It's your typical stadium. In this picture, if I'm not mistaken, it's an international match. So what I'd like you to think and just take a moment to reflect on is, looking at this picture, how many football jobs can you think of? So take, 30 seconds just to think. And, obviously some of you can start thinking and saying, well, there's jobs in the football clubs that are involved in the match. There's jobs in the federations that are the governing bodies for this match, whether it's the national federations or the continental federations or the global overall federation, FIFA. So you have those jobs. You also have the leagues. So for example, if this were a league match in Spain, you'd have La Liga involved. But it's not just about the governing bodies and the clubs and the organizations. There's also many actors or stakeholders that are involved. So there's jobs in the media that are covering this match. There's sponsors that are involved in this match, whether it's FIFA sponsors, if it's an international match with, a FIFA World Cup, or whether it's sponsors in the league, or even the club sponsors. There's also many jobs on the operations side. So people that are working to make sure that the pitch is working, to make sure that the travel arrangements, that the security is, taken care of. There's also, companies that are involved in the construction of the stadium. At some point, this stadium would have been built and construction would have been done, refurbishing and remodeling probably could take place. So as you can see, the list can go on. And just to give you an idea of what types of opportunities are available, well, it's not just the clubs, the federations, and the governing bodies, like I said, but there's marketing agencies that, broker deals between sponsors and clubs, or sponsors and players. There's licensing agencies that, with all the merchandise, you have licensing agencies that provide opportunities for brands to get involved and have official license for products, whether it's for clubs or federations, etc. Like I said before, there's media, there's sponsors, there's foundations, so more from the CSR, the corporate social responsibility side. There's NGOs, education. Of course, we're involved in education at SBI. There's also science, sports medicine, digital and social. Of course, this is huge nowadays. And also for, not just a communications platform, but also from a business perspective, connectivity, so tech companies, there's catering, hospitality, lighting technicians. I know these probably don't sound as glamorous, but what I mean is sometimes if you get your foot in the door through one of these companies or one of these stakeholders that is not necessarily one of the main actors, it could potentially open some doors for you. And the list goes on: pitch providers, stadium construction, elite coaching, sporting good manufacturers. This is a big one, right? So the Nikes and the Adidas and the Pumas of the world, they're major stakeholders. And not just that, I mean, if we go back to tech, there's video games like the former FIFA game, which is now EA Sports FC. So, like you can sort of understand with this is many opportunities are available, not just in the jobs that are involved with the main actors, like the players or the leagues or the national teams or the clubs or the federations, but there can be many opportunities at agencies, consulting firms, law firms. We haven't even talked about agents here, but there's representation firms. So you name it. There's many, many opportunities to get involved in football. And sometimes getting your foot in the door can be easier if you do it through one of these companies that is involved in the industry, but is not a major stakeholder or not a major actor, in the sense that they're not the ones performing, such as the clubs and the players and the federations, etc. So this is just to give you an idea, because most people, they're very set, and like I said, especially younger people, they're very set, and they say, well, I want to work for my dream job, which is at a club or at a league. And it's true. The reality, however, is that these jobs are competitive, and sometimes the easier path is to start through one of these companies that is involved in football, and then that can be your next step to where you want to go. So anyway, this is just to give you an idea of the marketplace and one of the job opportunities. This is another report that came out a couple of years ago, which talked about the Premier League in particular. And it stated that there were 6,239 people that were employed by Premier League and its clubs, by the Premier League and its clubs. So obviously there's quite a number there, and it keeps growing, because if you look at the jobs in the Premier League and Premier League club supply chains, which is what we talked about before, the number grows to 65,000 plus. And if you take it to the next level, there's 103,000 full-time equivalent jobs supported in the UK. So out of that, there's also an additional number that provide some type of service or are collaborating in some manner with the Premier League. So the number keeps growing as you see the ecosystem, get wider and wider. So think about that. And, once you begin reflecting upon these, nuggets of information that I'm sharing with you, try to start thinking about what is your objective. And I know some of you may be saying, well, I don't have the clarity right now. Perhaps some of you do, and some of you have a crystal clear objective as to where you want to go and where you want to be in the football industry, and that's great. But the reality is that most people that are at this stage where they want to move into the football industry, they don't really know where to start. They don't really have an objective. So the sooner you start exploring different areas that could be interesting to you and what are your aspirations and where you want to go, but also that cater to your strengths. So I'm a firm believer that it's not just about what you want to do, but also how you can use your current skills and abilities to your advantage so that you can accelerate your path. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. The other question is, where do you want to take your career, right? So where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Like I said, sometimes it's not that easy. You need to take time to reflect, to understand where you're at and where you want to go and how you want to get there. And it's a journey, it's a path, and that's why I said that patience is important and persistence, because it takes some time. Number one, to get that clarity, and number two, to put the steps in place so that you can reach your objective. Again, it's a very simple analogy and one that is more of a cliche, but it's the GPS analogy, right? If you get in your car and you say, I want to drive to France, yeah, that's great. Your GPS will tell you many ways to get to France. But if you say, I want to get to downtown Paris, you're going to be able to get there much faster and with a clearer path than if you put, I want to go to France, and then you have to sort of improvise and start going different paths on your own. So the more clear your objective is, the easier is going to be for you to continue on your path. So it's not always easy to get that clarity, but once you start working and once you start exploring, how you can use that to your advantage, it becomes easier to have that clarity. So number one, know what you want and why you want it. A lot of people focus on what they want, but they don't necessarily look at their purpose and why they want it. And it's important to understand that, because it also begins to tell you a little bit more about, the reasons behind you're working for this objective, not just what you want, but why you want it, right? And a lot of it is passion, a lot of it is emotion that we feel when we talk about football. And, you always hear this as well, that football is like no other industry, right? Because, you're not passionate about a toothpaste and you're not passionate about a pen. But of course, football evokes that emotion, that passion, that makes it such an industry that is so nice to work in, and that's why a lot of people want to work in it. Another industry that I would equate it to is the fashion industry and the music industry. These are industries that also evoke a lot of passion, and that's good, because that means that you're going to work towards an objective that it's not just something that you're going to look at as a potential job, but it's going to be something that you're going to be working towards, something that is going to fill you as an individual and as somebody that wants to reach your objective based on your passion, and not just because you have to do a job or because you have to do a certain project. So you need to visualize yourself. You need to see, where do you see yourself within the football industry? And again, it takes time. It's not an overnight thing for those that don't have that clarity. It takes some time to try and flesh it out. And then the third part is, how will you acquire the knowledge and the contacts to get ahead, and the skills? So this is how you should begin thinking of, how to get ahead. So let's talk a little bit more now and shift to what you need to do when you're applying for jobs and what employers want to know when you're looking for jobs in any sector, and particularly in the football industry. So there's certain elements that I think are important to look at here. So the first thing that they're going to be looking for when you apply for a job in the football industry, and like I said, in any sector, but in football in particular, because they look for those specific skills and knowledge and character, they're going to be looking for you to answer the question to them: can you do the job? So that's the first thing that employers look for. Can you do the job? So what does that mean? Are you qualified for the position? Do you have the knowledge? Do you have the skills for that position, for that job, for that role? Do you have any previous experience? So ask yourself these questions when you're applying for the jobs that potentially right now you're exploring. Well, can you do the job? This is the first thing that they're going to be looking at. Secondly, will you do the job? So are you more than just, quote unquote, a super fan? This is a business. Football is a business from the perspective of, the administration side. So it's not just about, having a passion for working for the club that you support or the players that you're, passionate about following. You need to demonstrate that you're going to be doing the job as a professional, as somebody that's hired because of their skills and their business acumen, not because of who you support. Do you have the right motivation? Are you there because you're looking to grow in the organization and you're looking to add value, or you're simply there because you want to fulfill your passion and do it for yourself? So will you do the job? This is a very important question that employers look for, and they can ask it in different ways. When you go to an interview, employers will ask many different questions. They'll put you in different situations, but at the end of the day, they want to know these three things: can you do the job? Will you do the job? And the last one is, will you fit in? So will you be an individual that can relate to the organization's culture? Are you there because, like I said before, because of the right reasons, because you want to be involved in that organization? And is your current situation ideal for the position? So for example, I know a lot of people. I used to, like I said before, I used to work in media, and I covered a lot of matches, and I met a lot of people in operations. And people that work in operations travel a lot. They go, especially some of those that are very qualified, they're usually hired for different events. So when they do a World Cup, just as they're finishing, they're being hired to do the Club World Cup. And when they're finishing the Club World Cup, they're usually being hired, to do a domestic championship. And what I mean is, these people are always involved in a lot of traveling. So, hypothetical situation. Let's say you're somebody with a young family, and you have a kid or two kids that you want to spend time with them, and your ideal job is working in operations. You're going to have a conflict, because at some point your job is going to involve a lot of travel, a lot of hours, a lot of weekends, a lot of instability from a familiar standpoint, and that may be something that goes against some of your personal values. So you got to look at that also from a personal standpoint, and you got to analyze yourself, as to what you want and why you want it, and if that situation is the right situation for you. A lot of young people, of course, don't have many commitments, can put it all in and can put in the hours and are ready to dedicate it. And in many cases, that helps them, because that allows them to enter an organization and be very flexible and be very able to, add value across a number of areas. So it ultimately depends on your situation, but the employers are looking at this, and they're seeing, well, are you going to fit in? Are you the right individual for the role? You may be very passionate, and you maybe even have the right skills, but if you're not there because of a personal value that you hold, that's going to ooze out of you in the interview, and it's important for you to be very honest and transparent. So again, to recap, can you do the job? So you got to demonstrate that you can do the job. You got to demonstrate that you will do the job, that you're there for the right motivation, and show that to them. And then also that you're going to fit in, that you're going to be there and be part of the culture that is going to help that organization grow. In many cases, when you're applying for jobs in smaller companies or smaller organizations that are involved in the industry, this is very helpful, because it allows you to have more opportunities than if you're going for a job at a major football club or at FIFA or at UEFA. Sometimes it becomes more difficult, because these jobs are more competitive, and they look for very specific skills and a very specific type of candidate. So that's why I was saying before, many times it's best to start out your career path in a smaller organization, or in an organization that is not necessarily, a football club or a league or a federation, because this can allow you to step into a role, gain experience. If you're working for a smaller organization, you're going to gain experience across a number of departments, and that's going to be very useful for you later on down the road. So think about that. Again, reflect on it. I know a lot of you perhaps don't have answers to many of these questions that I'm posing to you, but reflect on it, because it will be important for you to accelerate your path. Now, what are the mistakes that people make and sometimes are important to avoid? Well, the most common mistakes candidates make is that they only focus on their own objectives. And this, in a way, it's normal. In a way, it's human, because especially at the beginning of the career of somebody who's younger, they're very driven, they're very passionate, and they're saying, this is what I want. This is my career objective. And they'll state that even in their CV. And this is great. However, when you're applying for a position, 100% of the time, it's not about what you want. It's also about how you're going to add value to the organization. So I would encourage you to any relationship, any job, any opportunity that you have, to flip the coin and not just make it about themselves, about yourselves. I see this at conferences that I attend regularly, and people come up to me and people come up to people that I know, and they hand them their CV and they say that I'm looking for this job and this is my career objective and here's my CV. And you know where that CV usually ends up? In the bin. Why? Because they're not saying anything about the organization. They're not telling them how they're going to add value. So whatever the opportunity is that comes your way, whether it's a conversation with someone or an opportunity for a job or whatever it may be, always think about how you're going to add value first. So think about, researching the organization, try to think about strategies of how you could optimize, the organization perform better. And you may not have the answers. You don't obviously have the strategy and the vision of those companies because you're not involved in them. But if you try to anticipate, eventually you're going to come with some ideas that are going to make sense to the other side. And I can tell you from personal experience, many people want to work with us at SBI and they send us their CVs. And the ones that really stand out are the ones that I read and they say, look, I've seen what SBI does and I think I can add value in X, Y, and Z. And when I see those CVs or those letters that come in, those are the ones that I take time to review and I see, okay, this person took the time to research the organization, to see what we do, to provide some ideas. Maybe they're very good ideas, or maybe they're not. But just the fact that he or she took the effort to try and anticipate goes a long way. And even the reply that you're going to receive if you do this is going to be very different. Because rather than crickets and nobody replying to your email, even if it's something that doesn't pan out, you're going to see that the responses are going to be, thank you so much for applying, or thank you so much for sending this to us. At the moment, we don't have anything, but we'll keep you in mind. You leave a mark. And that's important because even if it doesn't pan out, it's a seed that you're planting. And maybe, just maybe, the need will come in 6 months' time and somebody might remember, hey, I remember that person that applied and it wasn't just their CV. They were sending us some ideas. So always, don't just make it about yourself. Anticipate what the other side wants and try to provide as much value as you can. Even if you don't have, like I said, the business objectives or the inside information to know how you can add value in many ways, try to research, try to anticipate, and you're going to see that the results, the feedback that you're going to get is totally different than if you just send your CV and you say, this is what I want and these are my career objectives. So that's the first mistake that a lot of people make and that you can try to flip and avoid. Secondly, sports organizations receive thousands of CVs. So why is yours any different? So again, it goes in line with the first part. How are you differentiating yourself? How are you being unique? How are you delivering value? So think about that anytime you contact with it. Like I said, with an individual, with an organization, any opportunity that you have, try to make it stand out. I heard a podcast or some type of seminar the other day, and somebody was saying, especially at the beginning, when you don't have knowledge, when you don't have contacts, it's like when you're at, if we take the football analogy, it's like when you're on the bench and the manager isn't playing you, right? So what do? You wait and you wait and you wait and you wait. And who are the ones that, really stand out? It's those super subs that when they have 5-10 minutes that the manager gives them at the end of the match, boom, they come out with fire and they're all over the place. They're chasing the opponent and they're scoring. And it's because out of those 3, 4, 5 minutes that the manager gives them, they're really maximizing it to the end. So think about that. You're probably going to be, if you're in a situation where you're starting out, you're going to be in that situation from a football analogy perspective. You're not being played by the manager. You're consistently there in training, putting in your effort, and the manager doesn't play you. But if you put in the work, if you put in the time, the persistence, when the manager says you're up and you get those 5 minutes, boy, you better make that stadium roar and bring it with a lot of energy. Well, same thing with your CV. Make it roar, make it stand out, make it show that, hey, I'm worth it, and I can show you and I can demonstrate it. And even if you don't see it now, I'm going to demonstrate it to you so that whenever the opportunity comes, if it does come, you're going to remember me. So something to think about. Make it stand out, make it different. And number three, I mean, these are all very much linked to each other, but don't ask what the club or the organization can do for you. Flip it around. What can you do for them? And we're going to talk about that in just a moment when I'm going to show you a particular strategy that you can use. And rather than focus on what you can do for the club, rather focus on what you can do for the club or the organization. So I guess I covered them all in one shot, and they're all basically saying the same thing. It's about not just thinking about what you need, what you want. It's also about what you can provide as value, how you're going to make it work, and how you're going to stand out. So think about that. Not just what I can show of what I want to do, but also the value that I can bring. So how can you do this, and what are ways where you can begin to stand out, where you can begin to differentiate yourself? Well, I think there's a couple of ways that are interesting tips to think about here. Number one is to build your personal brand, and number two is to create your own path. So I'll explain to you a little bit more what I mean by this. So how to build a personal brand. If I can leave you with something that can be a takeaway tonight, is try to be specific on a niche. Again, you may not know what that niche is at the moment, but think about areas that interest you. Think about areas that perhaps align with some of your strengths. And I'll give you an example. In fact, those of you that are going to be doing the masters with us, you're going to hear from this individual. I always like to highlight his example. His name is Bas Schnatter, and I'll tell you a little bit about his story. Bas came to us at SBI a while back ago, about maybe 8-9 years ago. And back then he was a very driven, ambitious guy, young guy who had just graduated. And he said, I'm thinking about doing a course. SBI is an option. Can you tell me why SBI is different? So I tried to explain to him. Eventually, he said, look, I think SBI is the right fit for me. He did a course with us, and he's gone on to have a very successful career in the football industry. But I like his path and his example because it's specific to what I'm going to mention now. Baz, at the time, focused on the area of fan engagement, which back in the day, about 8 or 9 years ago, this was something that was beginning to come up as a trendy, catchphrase, fan engagement. Well, what is it? How are clubs using it? How is the football industry engaging its fans? Anyway, to make a long story short, he began doing a lot of research on this, and he said, okay, well, how do organizations engage with their fans now? How could they engage with them better? And he started researching this from across a number of areas. He would do, research about some of the different clubs that, were engaging fans in certain ways. Anyway, what I mean is he started specializing on a niche. And what happens when you start specializing in a niche? You gain knowledge, you gain understanding, you become a quote-unquote expert in this specific area. Now, it's not just important to do this on your own and have all this knowledge that you're gaining and you're researching to keep it to yourself, but rather what you can do is you can put this information out there. And at the beginning, you're going to be self-conscious and you're going to have the imposter syndrome that they call it. And you're going to say, well, how am I going to write something and share it on LinkedIn, or I'm going to put a blog post, or I'm going to do something if I don't have any experience in anything? Well, the reality is you will, because you will have dedicated a lot of time for a specific niche. And eventually, if you put information out there with insights, with knowledge that is relevant to people that are reading it, they're going to begin noticing you. And you're not going to see it overnight, like I said. There's a statistic that I like to mention that normally says 90% of people let me get this right. Yeah, 90% of people consume information online, right? So they'll read something, they'll look at a specific report, whatever. 90% of the people are reading. Then the remaining 9% are people that are engaging and collaborating and sharing information. And then the last 1%, no, sorry, I messed it up. Anyway, I don't have the stats and the report in front of me, but basically it said that the point I'm trying to drive here is there's a lot of people that consume information and that will be reading what you post, but very few times you will be noticed right away. But people are watching, and eventually when you post enough information, you're going to see that it's going to be noticed. I got it now. It's 90% of the people that consume the content, 9% that engage with the content, and then 1% that produce the content. That's the one that I wanted to highlight. So you want to be in that 1% that is producing content. And nowadays with social media, and again, I would encourage you, if you don't have social media platforms, particularly LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter, those are the ones that I would highlight most. Make sure that you get involved in those, even if it's not something that you are very comfortable with. I would say that try and get out of your comfort zone and be out there in LinkedIn specifically, and then also Twitter, or X as it's known now, and Instagram. Post content, post information, and if you can dedicate to a specific niche, people eventually are going to notice. Anyway, to wrap up the anecdote about Baz is a very successful person in the industry now. He regularly gets contacted to do guest lectureships in universities and institutes. He moderates panels, and he's now working for EY, so one of the big four top consulting firms in the world. And he's very much involved in the football industry. But I like to highlight his story because I saw him from the start when he had very little knowledge, practically no contacts, and eventually he built a path. But he had very clear that if he specialized in a specific niche, and continued on it, people would notice it. So think about it. Maybe you can be the specialist on a specific region. Maybe you're from a country where, let's say, for example, right now, the Saudi market is one that is booming, and we've all read about it and we've heard about it. Perhaps if you're from that region and you start, putting information out there about Saudi football and the Saudi economy and how it relates, and anyway, you get what I mean. Eventually people are going to say, oh, this person is a specialist in that market. He's a Saudi expert. Or you can be a specialist in a specific area of the football industry. So you can analyze sponsorships, and you can begin analyzing different sponsorships and, what are the different elements involved in those deals, and try to get as much information. And people are going to notice you if you put but you got to be consistent. This is the key. You got to be consistent, and you got to post content which is relevant. And it doesn't have to be, mega long reports that are, 20, 30 pages long. It can be a blog post of, 6, 7 paragraphs, or even less than that, 4 or 5 paragraphs with key takeaways. But if you specifically put information about a niche, eventually you're going to position yourself. And who knows, maybe you'll get asked to write a guest blog on another, person's website. You may be asked to participate in a podcast. You may be even asked to attend a conference to deliver, information about some of your research. So it all starts with, a little seed that you can begin watering and planting. So think about that. Keep that in mind, because the more you build your personal brand, the more you expose yourself out there in the digital world, people will notice you. If you hide behind the screen, people will not see you. And this is evident again, and you all know this. People are not going to come and knock on your door. You need to be out there. You need to position yourself. You need to I like this analogy as well. And you need to raise your hand and you need to say, I'm here. I'm here and I have something to add. And at the beginning, it won't be as good as your second or your third contribution, whether it's some people prefer to do it with video because they don't like writing. So you may be more comfortable sharing a few, short clips on YouTube or on Instagram or whatever. Make sure it delivers value and people will notice you. I can guarantee you that people will notice. And if you do it in the right way, and if you put insightful information, this is the key that adds value, eventually you're going to build a brand. And once you build a brand, how do all companies start? Start with nothing. They're nothing when they start. They got to build a brand. They got to position themselves. They got to do their marketing. Well, same thing you as an individual. Think of yourself as a company or as a consultant and not just someone that is looking for employment. And the minute you shift that in your mindset, you're going to see that you're going to transmit another type of energy, another type of content out there, and people are going to notice it. So anyway, I like to highlight this because this is important. And a lot of people are sometimes hesitant. Don't be hesitant. Like they say, high risk, high reward. Put yourself out there. And even if it's not the best content piece, eventually you're going to get better. And eventually that's when, all it takes is one shot. All it takes is one person to notice one piece of content that you put out there that says, hey, I saw your post or your video or your content piece. I'd like to have a chat. And from that chat, who knows? Potential is untapped. You may be able to get an interview. You might even get a job, or you may just get a relationship from someone that says, look, let's keep in touch. And down the road, that's another contact that you're going to have. But it does take getting out of your comfort zone and putting yourself out there. Right. The other thing that you can do is, and this is something that I like to highlight as well, is specifically when you're targeting an organization. And this goes back to my previous point. But it's a strategy that I've talked about in the past, and a lot of people have used it, and it's been successful for them. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort and dedication, but basically it comes down to this. If you don't see an employment opportunity come up, a job listing, a job vacancy, create it for yourself. So what do I mean by that? This tends to work better when you're not targeting the huge organizations that have very strict corporate guidelines on how to hire people. So it tends to work more for smaller companies, smaller organizations in the football industry that are more agile, that are more innovative. And what do I mean by this? Well, you may just look at a certain company or organization or institute that you feel identified with, and you say, oh, look, I like what this company is doing, and they're involved in the football industry, but I don't see any jobs that they're posting. What you could do is you could prepare a self-candidature. And what do I mean by that? Well, you could send an email to the HR department or to the info email, whoever you can get access to, and send them a short motivation letter, send them your CV, and on top of that, provide them some type of dossier or report or added value that tells them that you're already thinking about the organization. It has worked numerous times for people that I've helped with and coached with. It doesn't happen with just the first time that you do it, but it's an opportunity that you can create for yourself. And it goes back to what I mentioned before. People notice when it's not just your CV and your motivation letter. So let's say, for example, you identify, I don't know, a sports marketing agency that you're really, looking at it from the outside, and you say, I'd love to work there. So what you could do, let's say it's for the sake of hypotheticals, let's say it's a representation firm that represents football players, and you think, oh, I'd love to work in that company. So one of the things that you could do is you could send them your CV, you could send them your motivation letter, tell them why you'd like to work there, but also provide some type of analysis, some type of report, some type of dossier, some type of added value. And that could be, I don't know, a list of footballers in a particular market that they might be interested in following, or brands that might be interested to sponsor some of the players that they may represent in the agency. I don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing out examples here a little bit off the top of my head, because it always is very customized to the organization that you target. But basically, the point that I'm trying to drive here is, don't just make a preemptive self-candidature with your CV and your cover letter, but add something that distinguishes you and that says, hey, this person has some ideas, this person is creative, and who knows, it might just be that they offer you an opportunity to come in for a chat, and off the back of that might even turn into an employment opportunity. Another anecdote that I'll share with you briefly, and I know we're going a little bit over time here, but we're gonna get to the questions and to the end here in just a moment. A few years back, I met with the club Sporting Lisbon in Portugal. We had a collaboration with them anyway. And I noticed that there was somebody there in the meeting who was an American. And that sort of sparked my interest, because we were in Portugal, he was American. And I said, look, I'm really interested to know about your path. I mean, how does an American end up working for Sporting Club de Portugal? And he said, well, actually, I'm half Portuguese and I'm half American. And the way I landed the job here is I basically benchmark. This is going back about 10 years ago, so it's been a while. But when social media was picking up pace and a lot of traction, and he said, well, basically what I did is I contacted the club and I sent them a benchmark report of all the first and second division clubs in Portugal and how they were using social media, the different strategies, the different types of posts. And he provided a report to them. And I said, oh, well, that's super interesting. It must have taken a lot of time for you to develop. And he said, yeah. I mean, it took quite a while. But then I came one day and I provided them the report and said, look, I've prepared this. If it's of any value to you and you'd like to have a chat with me and discuss it further, I'd be really open to do that. So I asked him and I said, so what happened next? And he said, well, the next day they called me and they said, come in for a chat. And off the back of that chat, that same day, they started giving me some tasks and I started collaborating. And then, again, to make a long story short, he ended up being the community manager for Sporting Club. And after that, he became the head of digital for the club. So all of that because he took the initiative, he was proactive, he created a report that added value to the club. And they said, look, this guy's showing us something that is different. And he's already adding value. We don't know his name. We don't know his background. But already from day one, he's providing value to us. That's the type of profile that we want to have in this organization. And that's the type of people we want to bring in. And, it did happen. And he ended up working for the club that he supported, from his youth. So will this happen every time? No. Are you going to send, maybe 5, 6, 10 different dossiers and none of them are going to pan out? Perhaps. But if one of them goes to the right person at the right time that says, I believe in this person, I believe in this guy or this girl, then you've already opened the door out of an opportunity that wasn't there. So to conclude here, the point that I want to make is many times you can't control what offers are available in the market and what opportunities are there. So you can focus on what you can control. And you can't control, one of the things that you can control, CAN, is the value that you can bring to the table. That you can control. The rest, it's not up to you. So if it's not up to you and you can't control it, don't focus too much on that. Focus on what you can control. And this is a strategy that sometimes can provide results. Not every time, but who knows? If you land at the right time with the right idea, with the right individual, then the potential can be, maximized. So anyway, just to begin to wrap up here, 2 qualities you need to start and achieve a long career in the football industry is what I was mentioning before. Work on your personal brand and provide opportunities for yourself, create your own path. So, to finalize and to finish off, your success in the football industry will depend on having clarity on your career objectives. Number one, as we said, the more clear you are, the more focused you can be to achieving the goals that you set for yourself. So you may not have that clarity now. Try and think of who can help you gain that clarity and work on that. Number two, proving that you have the knowledge, the skills, the experience to understand how the industry works from a business perspective and how you will add value. So a lot of this we already covered in many ways. So that's number two. Number three, creating a strong network of contacts in the industry. And just to highlight this, which is what we mentioned before, when you connect with someone, don't connect and just ask for something right away. There's many people that contact me and contact people that I know, and they say, "Oh, if you know of a job, or if you know of an internship," and I don't know who they are. I've never met them. I've never seen them. I just get an email or a LinkedIn message that says, "Can you please help me get an internship?" or "Can you please help me on my my career?" I'd love to. I honestly would. I just don't have the time. And if I don't know you, and if I'm just there because I don't know who you are, and you're just asking something, odds are that not only me, but anybody who's in a position that can hire someone is probably not going to take you very seriously. So always, always, always add value first, even if it's just connecting with someone on LinkedIn. Always add value and say, "Look, whatever you need," or even just saying, "Look, I read this article that might be of interest to you," whatever that may be, but don't just make it about yourself. And then finally, something that I think would be very relevant to you, and again, it's not always easy to attain and to achieve on your own. Try to find somebody that can mentor you, that can provide you some tips, some strategies, some advice, support as well, because like we said before, it's never a straight line. So you want to have a team behind you or a person behind you that can support you. Another analogy that I like to make, and just to wrap up here, is I'm sure many of you that are sports fans also watch tennis. Tennis is an individual sport. And much like finding a job in football, it's also an individual sport. So a tennis player normally has a mental coach, a tennis coach, a nutritionist, you name it. They have a whole team around them. And when they win, they always say, "Oh, we won and we did it." And it's just them that are playing the match. But it's a whole team that is supporting them. So try to find that team that can support you, because the more you have that collaborative environment, the more chances of success. And it's not always easy to do it on your own. So what I always say is, what if? And this is where I want to talk a little bit about a master's program, and then we'll get to your questions. But very, very quickly, if you lack the contacts, if you lack the knowledge, if you don't have mentors, if you don't have experience, our program can allow you to get ahead. And this is how we've developed the course, our Master in Football Business and Management. It's taking into account all of this tips, strategies, advice that we've talked about today, and how to package it so you can get the most value as far as amplifying your network, gaining more knowledge, having opportunities to gain experience, and also having mentors that can guide you and can build a roadmap with you. So we talked about this already, but the master basically provides you the knowledge, and it's updated and aligned to the employment skills that are required in the football industry. So the program very much looks at what's happening today. It's not an academic program in the sense that it's not a textbook theory based course. It's all around projects, practical scenarios, acting as if, gaining the knowledge firsthand so that you're prepared when the opportunities come. Obviously, we give you access to a very wide network of executives, clubs, leagues, federations, agencies, etc., where you can then have an opportunity to build relationships. Many of the students themselves that do the program are already in leadership positions in football. This year we have executives from clubs in La Liga, clubs such as Valencia, a few other clubs in La Liga and the first and second division, Oviedo, another club. So classmates that are going to help you and that are going to be part of your network. So it's not just about the individuals that are coming to deliver the master classes and the other opportunities that you're going to gain. It's also about your classmates, many of them who are in football, where you can build a network already. Obviously, we provide personalized mentorship. We do one-on-one sessions with you so that we build a career roadmap based on your objectives, your aspirations, and we guide you along the way. This team that we talked about before, this support that you're going to need, well, we're going to provide it to you if you decide to come on board. And then also practical experience. Many of the projects that you're going to be involved in if you do this master are, real life projects that are commissioned by clubs and leagues and agencies. And we also provide some opportunities for you to gain that firsthand experience. So I'll skip through this because we have a methodology, and if you go online and you look at our program, you're going to see how we work. But basically, it's live online sessions where you have a chance to interact, ask questions. You're put in positions to, be in online workshops. So basically, learn every step of the way, every single moment. We have a live session every week, and then you have an online campus where you do the self-study, learning on your own. Plus with the assignments and the final projects and the live events. This is a little bit more about the mentorship that I mentioned before. So we provide you career guidance, we help you with your personal brand, we help you amplify your network, we identify your gaps, and we build a roadmap together with you. The mentors, well, it's not just anyone that comes and that we hire for you to have access to, but mentors that have experience working for clubs the likes of Manchester United, Inter Milan, West Ham, FC Barcelona, AS Monaco. We also have a consultant that is a recruiter for sports jobs and helps you understand what the employers look on the other side. So anyway, you have an opportunity to have mentors that are not just people that are going to give you advice randomly, but it's people that have had success, people that have seen the industry from the inside, and that are going to be real with you, and they're going to be telling you, look, this is an opportunity, but this is not. And you're going to need to work on this, and you're going to need to have this in place to have better opportunities for yourself. So this is very valuable because you're going to get, very real input, and there's nothing better than honest feedback. And there's nothing better than having accountability. That if one of your mentors says, look, I recommend that you do this and that, and next time we have a session, I'd like you to have this done. It's accountability, and we all need accountability, because what happens when we try to do it on our own? Life gets in the way. We get busy, and then we start putting these things in the back burner that are important to us. But if we don't have the accountability, and that's why these mentors are there to provide that accountability, but also the support that you're going to need along the way, because it's, like I said, like I want to keep repeating, it's never a straight line. You can go to our website, you can see the speakers, the level of people that we bring, but it's really, really top level professionals. It's not easy, and you're going to probably see this on your own if you try to connect with executives from different organizations. It's not always easy to bring people from FC Barcelona, Manchester United, Manchester City, FIFA, UEFA, Bayern Munich, Leicester City. The list goes on and on and on and on. Speakers that work in these organizations, and that they're going to share with you in their master classes the knowledge, the insights that are going to make you open your eyes and understand how the industry works, so that when you have your opportunity, you're going to see, oh, okay, I remember the case that was posed to me and that I worked on about Bayern Munich or Leicester City, or, and it's not just the top clubs, it's also, more modest clubs that we bring people from, so that you can learn from them and, gain the experience from them. Right. I just want to keep going here very quickly because we are over time, and I don't want to keep you very long. But the people that do this masters are either executives that are already working in the football industry, professionals from other corporate sectors that are looking to transition, many professional football players. You saw the list before that I showed you. This year for October, we have, I think, 4 or 5 professional footballers, both men and women, that are going to be taking part in the course. So this is also a very valuable part of the cohort, because imagine, a couple of years back, we had Wes Morgan do the course with us, as I mentioned. Imagine being in a class where he's sharing with you what happened inside the dressing room and what the manager was telling them before a big match. I mean, it's insight that you don't get unless you're inside the dressing room. So many times having players as part of the cohort is a huge added value because you learn what happens from the inside and you see the other side. I mean, obviously we're going to look at the business side in the master, but it's also important to look at the sporting side. And if you get firsthand knowledge and insight, it's super, super valuable. And then finally, another profile that we like to recruit sometimes is younger professionals that are hungry, that are there to show us that they have the right motivation and that they're looking to break in. Right. Finally, we do have a graduation ceremony in Barcelona in June 2024. 2 days of full packed events. We take you inside FC Barcelona. We give you master classes with executives. We take you inside Espanol, Media Pro. We have a graduation dinner, a graduation ceremony, social networking, a lot of fun. So in June, we basically culminate the program here in Barcelona. It's not mandatory, but we recommend that everybody attend. All you need to do is get your accommodation and your flights, and the rest we take care of you here. You know, we deal with your transportation, your meals, the events, the social, the dinners. Anyway, that's all included in the tuition fees. We do have a partnership with a university in Miami, USA. So the program is academically recognized by Florida Global University. This is important because it adds that academic stamp of approval that a very industry-oriented program like ours needs. Because all the people that are teaching the course are professionals at clubs, federations, leagues, agencies, etc. But we do want to make sure that when you get your qualification, your diploma, you have a university on the diploma that says, okay, it's not just a practical course that was done. There's academic rigor so that when people are looking to hire you in the football industry, it's not just any course, but it's backed by a university, and one in the United States that for us is very important because as you can probably imagine, sports marketing and sports business is very, very much at the forefront in that market. Okay, I'm going to run through these slides now because we're basically now at the end, but one that I want to finish off here is 95% of our students say that the program it shouldn't say exiled there. It's exceeded their expectations. So, sometimes people come with some expectations and we like to over deliver. We like to make sure that we take care of you. Our mantra and our value here at SBI is we are here to serve you as the students. And we have that very, very clear. And that's what's made us successful, because we're not just having transactionary relationships with our students, that they do our masters, they do the course, and we send them off. We really want to give you the best value and the best service. And we are here to serve you. And that's something that me as the director and the founder of SBI have always had very clear. It's not an institute where we're just going to be taking people in and pushing them through the doors and hoping for the best. We're going to give our best so that you succeed. And of course, like I said at the outset, the other 50% depends on you, but you can count that the part that it's our 50%, we're going to give it our all, and we're going to over deliver as much as we can. Right. Application process, very simple. You go online, you fill out a form, you pay an application fee, and then you have to send us your CV, a motivation letter, and a copy of your passport. That's it. Then we look at we have a team of 4 people that form part of our committee. We review all candidatures very meticulously. We don't exclude anyone. You may be 18 years old or you may be 60. You may have experience, you may have no experience. If we see you have the right motivation, the right profile, and the right, the right profile, we will look at that. And we have a certain level that we want to uphold and obtain. So we don't just bring on anyone. We make sure that they have the right motivation or the right experience or the right value that they're going to bring to the table. Course overview. Well, anyway, you can go online and see this, but we are divided into 3 terms. We finish off in June, like I said. The curriculum basically looks at every single element of the football ecosystem, the business ecosystem, whether it's finance, digital, marketing, sponsorship, player representation, legal, etc. Everything that you need to know as far as the football ecosystem is covered in our curriculum, and it's up to date and it's relevant. Like I said, this is the application process. You can do it online. You fill out the form, you pay the application fee, send us the documentation, we evaluate, and we provide you a response, usually within 5 business days. Now it's a little bit shorter because we're getting close to the starting date. So it's a process that takes 2 or 3 days now, and we're going to get back to you. If for any reason you're not admitted to the program, number one, we refund the application fee. We believe in a no-risk application. We want to get as many people applying as we can so that we have as much selection as possible. But there are many people that we turn away each year because they may not have the experience, or they may not have the level of English, or they may not have the right motivation or the right time to make this a master that is going to benefit them. And of course, if they don't have the qualifications that we need or that we require, we turn them away. If for any reason you're not admitted, we provide you feedback and we refund you the application fee. So there is no risk in applying, but just know that you may not be admitted automatically because, there's 4 of us that look at this very, like I said, meticulously and make sure that we bring on the right individuals. Right. Okay. Good. Finally, I want to get to your questions. Feel free to type them in the chat box. I'm here, like I said before about over-delivering. We talked about a 45-minute webinar, but I wanted to make sure that I landed all the messages that were important to you guys, and also to explain to you about our master's program. But at this program, at this stage, I want to make sure that you type your questions in the chat box, whether it's related to the course, whether it's related to your career path, and I'll stick around here for a little bit longer and deal with those questions. So let me have a look at some of the questions that are coming in here. By the way, I didn't acknowledge Alpha from Indonesia and Olivier from France. Welcome. I didn't see you guys sign in before. Keith Fernandez says, "Hi Diego, I wanted to express my gratitude for you leading and conducting the sessions. Your insight and guidance were truly beneficial, and I found the experience exceptionally helpful in enhancing my knowledge further. Thank you for your time." Thank you, Keith. You were here dedicating your valuable time, so I'm glad that it was useful to you. So it's me who thanks you for listening, and hopefully you can take away some of these tips and strategies on your own. Thomas says, "Are the dates for the graduation in Barcelona confirmed?" They're not confirmed as of yet, and I'll tell you why. Because we depend on the 2 clubs in the city. We depend on Media Pro, and in order for the event to be as value-packed as we can, we like to make sure that everything is in place and everything is confirmed before we give you a date. So we're finalizing the details. We're talking to those organizations. Usually, it's the first week of June, Thursday, Friday. So it ends up being either the 8th and 9th, or 9th and 10th, or 11th and 12th, somewhere around those dates. We will get them confirmed for you guys that are already enrolled in the program, because we know you'll need to make your travel arrangements for June next year. Of course, there's plenty of time, but we will be there to provide you those dates. So hopefully that answers the question, Thomas. Mohammed says, "Hello, Mr. Valdez." Hi, Mohammed. Let me know if you have your question. Edwin says, "Are there any networking events in the nearest future which makes sense to attend?" Edwin, good question. I will be at SoccerX in Miami. Very good event to attend. If you're able to make it happen, and if you're in that part of the world, one that I would recommend. SoccerX is a conference that's been around for many years. They've recently changed in the ownership group, and now they're very focused in the US, and they hold the event in Miami. It's in November, so that's coming up. There's also an event called Leaders in Football, or Leaders, which is another conference that's very good. I believe it's taking place in the middle of October, just when we kick off our master, or a little bit before that. There's also the World Football Summit, which just happened in Seville, and many of the students that are going to be taking part in the masters, and some that are here tonight, attended, and it was a fantastic event. Great sessions, great opportunities to learn. We also provided them with some job match sessions for them to meet with different companies and networking events. So the World Football Summit is one that I would definitely look at. They have events not just in Spain. They have one coming up in December in Saudi Arabia, in Jeddah, if I'm not mistaken. So these are a few that come off the top of my head, but there's a few others that are going to be coming up. So, always keep an eye out on what's happening. And then maybe in your local area, I don't know where you're from, Edwin. Maybe if you let us know in the chat where you're from, we can then see if there's any events that are close to you in your country. Omar, good to see you, Omar. Or good to hear from you. He says, looking forward to the opportunity of meeting you in person. Omar is coming to Miami, or at least that was the last conversation that I had with you, Omar. So I'm excited to embark on the Masters, he says, where I aim to expand my network and work towards achieving my vision in this sector. I also reached out to you via email to connect with Stephanie. Okay, yes, I saw your email. It's just that I've had a very busy week with meetings and this webinar. So I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can, and I'll connect you with her. She's in Montreal FC, or Montreal CF, I should say. So anyway, I'll either myself or someone from the team will get on that for you, Omar. Looking forward to the opportunity. Edwin, in Germany, right. So if I'm not mistaken, well, there's several events in Germany that are for the German market, but let me get back to you because I know there's a few in Germany. So if you want to send us an email, we'll try and get that information to you. Alpha, hello. Hamad from Saudi Arabia. Yes, I know Hamad. You were there with us at the World Football Summit, so it's great to see you here connecting. Alpha, great to see you as well. Hi there, this is Hussein. Have you faced anyone with finance accounting background who took this master's program and shifted his career to football or sports business in general, or share your point of view of this approach? Right. So Hussein, I understand you're in finance and accounting. Is that correct? Right. Sorry, I had to take a little bit of water. Yes, we've had people from all sorts of backgrounds. Finance, legal, marketing, sales, many people that transferred skills and then moved into positions in the football industry. Sometimes, it didn't happen overnight, as I said. But, one of the individuals that did our program, and, I won't mention his name, but just to give you a little bit of his trajectory, he did our program with us a number of years back. And off the back of that, he had a finance background and an economics background, economics and finance degree. And off the back of doing our master's program, he then landed a job for a football consulting company. After he spent a couple of years in this football consulting company, he was hired at FIFA. And then after being hired at FIFA, he went on and moved on to a football club in France. So his trajectory was very successful, and he had a finance background. He didn't have experience in football, but like I always say, and I never like to give ourselves the full credit. We obviously played a role because he did education with us, but it was also about him and how he moved and how he networked and how he positioned himself. So yes, we've had many people that not just with finance and accounting backgrounds, but like I said before, general business backgrounds, in sales, in marketing, in some of them even have sponsorship backgrounds, which of course is very valuable if they want to move into a sponsorship role in football. But legal, HR, digital, you name it. Many people that have used those skills to transition. So hopefully that answers your question, Hussein. Where are you based, Hussein? I just couldn't see yet. Okay, well let me get to some of these other questions. Omar says, when is the deadline to secure a ticket for SoccerX? There's still time. It's in November, so you still have some time. I was speaking to Dina Mohammed, so we can discuss that, privately, because I know you're going to be involved in our program, and we already were in conversation. So I'll get in touch with you about SoccerX, and I'm really looking forward to, bringing you alongside myself. And I know you mentioned that you wanted to attend, so it'd be an absolute pleasure. Right, Vitas. Vitas, your name sounds familiar. I think you've been in previous webinars, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not. Maybe there's another Vitas that has taken part. But anyway, you can perhaps let me know. But Vita says, do you have any tips for someone looking to work at the intersection of football and climate? Oh, wow, nice one. Currently, I am contributing writer at Forbes, reporting on it. Also, see you at SoccerX in Miami. It'll be a pleasure to meet you. Okay, Vitas. Now that I know that you're going to be there, reach out to me on LinkedIn, send me a message so that I can sort of have you on the radar, and I don't forget, obviously, if we're there, so that we meet each other. So Vitas, I really look forward to seeing you. Actually, in our master's program, we have a person by the name of Kevin Korn deliver a masterclass. And Kevin Korn, he's an American. He's based out of Nantucket in Massachusetts. And he has an agency that is very much involved in sustainability. And he talks a lot about the mandates that the UN has as a whole, and how football clubs can use this, and not just football clubs, but football actors in the ecosystem can use this to really drive that as an initiative moving forward. So what I mean by this is sustainability is a trend. It's something that is more than a trend, really. It's an obligation that more and more is going to be looked at across a number of football organizations. So I think when we talked before about niches, that could be a niche where you can begin specializing in the whole sustainability side. And sustainability can be very wide, not just climate. I mean, there's many, many other areas in sustainability. But that could be an area where you can begin looking at how you can position yourself, and eventually look for opportunities that are going to be coming up. We talk about this in the master's program, and when you look at the curriculum and you see Julie Ferrer, who is a former head of partnerships at FC Barcelona, one of the things that he says regularly in his master classes is a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be talking to you about today wasn't even around 6 months ago, and let alone a year or 2 years back. So a lot of the things change and evolve. Look at just how the World Cups are being organized. This recent announcement just yesterday about Spain, Portugal, Morocco hosting the World Cup, and also having matches in Uruguay, Argentina, and Paraguay. I mean, this is new. This is changing. Just a few years back, we had the Euros across a number of countries in Europe. Competitions that have traditionally been domestic are going abroad. They're going to Saudi Arabia. The Spanish Super Cup is being played in Saudi Arabia. The Italian Super Cup has also been played in different territories. There's talk about league matches being played, internationally, much like the NFL and the NBA do. So a lot of this is changing and it's evolving, and you need to have your finger on the pulse. And this is why our program is very agile. In the curriculum, we've always made sure that it's football industry oriented. One thing that you'll not see in our programs is you're not going to learn the theory. We're not going to teach you the 4 P's of marketing or the 8 P's of marketing or whatever theory is out there. We do it the other way around. We reverse engineer it. We provide you a case. We provide you scenarios. We make you act as if in the role plays and in the seminars that you take part in. And that's how you prepare yourself for opportunities and for the changes that are happening in the industry. Anyway, long-winded response there, Vitas, but hopefully it helps. Yes, it's a niche that you can work on, and sustainability is definitely a trend that is something that is going to become even more of a priority. So hats off to you also for being a writer at Forbes, very important publication. So obviously that speaks to your level of writing and to your level of commitment to landing an opportunity to be involved with Forbes, which is a very reputable outlet. Mohammed says, and I wanted to know if we'll get references, books, or whatever throughout the course to get infos on the niche we choose, because the internet is wide and now more difficult to get the right piece of information. I'm going to recommend a couple of books here for you now. And this is for you, Mohammed, and for everybody else. And Thomas, who's here tonight, will know about this. There's a book called, Show Me the Money. The author is Esteve Calzada. It was written about 10 years ago. Absolute Bible on the business of football. It's in English. It's in Spanish as well, but it's in English. Esteve Calzada is the head of partnerships and head of commercial, rather, at City Football Group. He used to work at FC Barcelona. He's also been involved in his own agency. Super knowledgeable guy. That book is absolutely fantastic. I would definitely recommend to you. And the other one is called Done Deal. Daniel G., sports lawyer, absolutely wonderful book that, talks about the business of football, talks about how you can understand the role of the agent, contracts. So the entire ecosystem, particularly looking at it from the prism of a sports lawyer and an agent, but overall on the business side. Daniel has also done guest lectures with us many years. So super interesting books for you guys to read. They're in the chat there, by the way, so you will see them in the chat. Just type those names in Amazon and you'll see them come up, or any book, major distributor, and you should be able to buy them. And not only that, I mean, there's also other books that I would recommend that you should think about reading that might be able to help you. Atomic Habits, The Magic of Thinking Big. These are books that I would recommend for you guys to look at, more for your personal development. Those are not related to sports at all, but are interesting to read. Thomas says The Deal by John Smith. Nice. That should be another good one to add to the list. Right. So hopefully that helps with the books, Mohammed. Right, let me get to the next question here. Hussein says, I'm based in Saudi Arabia. I'm thinking of this program specifically now with the increasing trend here in the country, where I can know the events related to sport business in Saudi Arabia and the Middle East. Well, Hussein, if you're thinking about it, we already have, I think it's about 6 people from Saudi Arabia. We have very high profile people from Saudi Arabia that are going to be taking part in the course. In fact, one of the people that is involved in the course has asked us not to mention his profile. And in fact, his team was the one that did the whole arrangement for him. So very, very senior individual in Saudi Arabia, super well-known person that unfortunately I'm not allowed to say his name because of the petition that was specifically mentioned to us. But anyway, that's somebody that you can expect to see if you take part in the course, and from a networking standpoint. We also have the CEO of a football club in Saudi Arabia. I never get the name right, but it's the club that has Steven Gerrard as the manager, so he's involved in the course, as well as a couple of other people working in the federation and some different elements in Saudi football. So, Hussein, if you're looking to network with people in the Saudi market, there's already very, very high profile people that are going to be part of the cohort starting this October. So something to keep in mind when we talked about networking and growing and amplifying your contacts. Well, right there, you already have a few individuals in your own market that are going to be taking part in the course. And it's not just about them being involved in the same classes as you. You're going to be working on projects. You're going to be working in teams and groups. And eventually you're going to be collaborating with a lot of people on the program. So it's everybody, no matter what profile they have, high, low, junior, senior, when they come to the master, everybody has one objective, which is, collaborate and help each other out as, students and classmates. Right. So Hussein, hopefully that helps. And something to take away as well, Hussein, from your standpoint. Finance is a very interesting part of football business, because that's exactly where a lot of the clubs have lacked rigor, and where a lot of the problems have happened for many clubs that have gone into administration, that have disappeared, because they haven't had the right financial structure, the right financial leaders. So that's already an asset that you bring to the table, even more so to think about, because there's skills that are in demand in football, and finance is definitely one that is always in high demand, because of the nature of, in any business, right? Who's the next in line to the CEO? It's always the CFO. Why? Because finance is important in any organization. Well, same thing here. Football, finance, huge part of the industry, and people that have those skills and qualification always helps. Right. Omar, are all of them football related? No, Atomic Habits and The Magic of Thinking Big are not. So those are just for personal development. The two that I would recommend are Done Deal and Show Me the Money, by those guys that I mentioned before. Right. Carla says, fantastic webinar. Thank you, Carla. Always nice to talk to you and see you involved with us. Great insight into how we can get into our foot in the door in the football industry, and how to produce an effective CV and personal brand. I'm buzzing with excitement to start the program on the 16th. We're buzzing with you, Carla. We're buzzing. We're ready for you. We're pumped. We're excited, and we're ready to kick off. So we're only a few days away, and we're super excited that you're already part of the program and have been already involved with us for a number of months since you decided to embark on this journey, and it's already nearing. So we're very, very happy to see you and being involved in the session with you. Are the classes live? Asks Hussein. Yes, classes are live and interactive. We use this same platform. Big difference from the classes is that right now it's just me talking and it's a webinar and you guys are muted. In the classes, everybody has their mic unmuted. You can come in, you can ask questions. There's this platform allows you to raise your virtual hand. So there's a lot of interaction. And even if you don't want to interact, we put you on the spot many times and ask you for your input, always in a very collaborative manner. So our objective is not to put you uncomfortable, but we do make you and we do push you. So yes, the classes are live, they're interactive. No, it's not just self-study. You do have a self-study online portal for additional academic resources, which involves presentations, business cases, videos, links, even some online tests. So it's a one-stop shop. The online platform is an online campus. It's a one-stop shop, but it's live, it's interactive. We also have a WhatsApp group with everybody on the course that remains active every day, basically. There's always content being shared. And this goes back to what I mentioned before about networking and relationships. I'm sure you're involved in many WhatsApp groups, Hussein, and you're going to see that WhatsApp is much more agile than email, for example. So imagine being in a WhatsApp group over 9 months with individuals that all have the same objective. They are already all there with the mindset of growing, of developing, of finishing the masters. You're going to really get to know these people very, very deeply, because 9 months in classes, in a WhatsApp group, in projects, you're going to basically know everybody, who they are, their personality, their way of working. That's, if there's something that the pandemic showed us, is that the online digital platforms allow us to work and collaborate very much like in a face-to-face environment. Obviously, there's some value that you can never replace from face-to-face, but there's also a lot of advantages of online as far as, the flexibility, the level of speakers that you get, because we bring speakers from Germany, France, Italy, obviously Spain, the UK, evidently, the US, Latin America. And this wouldn't be possible in a program that was in a specific city, or it would be possible, but you'd be talking about fees, 30, 40, 50,000 euros, which, sometimes people don't necessarily have those funds. So online adds a lot of advantages, and the overwhelming comment that we get when we have the graduation ceremony in Barcelona, when the classmates meet many times for the first time, they say, I feel as if I know you. Even though I'm meeting you for the first time in person, you already know who they are, how they interact, because 9 months together with live classes. The live classes are held once a week, but there's several weeks throughout the year where you have 2 classes per week. And there's also the WhatsApp group. So, you're in a week's time, you're going to be involved and engaging with your classmates quite regularly. So anyway, no, it's not just a course where you're going to be on your own, just studying and, watching recorded seminars. Obviously, the seminars will be recorded in case you can't attend, but the idea is that you collaborate, that you get involved in the discussions, that you ask questions, because that's how you get the most value out of the master's program. I'm asking this because we might face difficulties in finishing this program while we do full-time jobs. Well, no, that's one of the advantages. The classes are held in the evenings, and the course has been designed to be done in parallel with other professional commitments, personal commitments, even academic commitments. There's several people that are doing other academic programs in parallel to this one. You need to dedicate about 4 to 5 hours a week, and that's it. It's very practical. Like I said, you're not going to be having to read, 30 pages of textbook theory. That's not how we operate. We're going to be giving you very specific cases, but in a manner that allows you to do this in parallel with work commitments. And I mean, imagine, we've had CEOs, we've had executives. Last year, we even had a prime minister, a former prime minister, do a course. The prime minister of Malta, the country Malta, he did the course because he's now running the Malta Football League. So I mean, imagine the schedule of a prime minister. And he was able to complete the course. So I am convinced that this is a program that is very much flexible for you to do in parallel with your work or your other commitments. Obviously, it's going to take effort, because those 4 or 5 hours you're going to need to find on your own, but it's in the evenings. And if you're in the Middle East, we're talking, 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock Saudi time, starting time. So hopefully by then, you won't be, very much involved in work projects. But anyway, if we couldn't attend to the work, travel, etc., are they recorded? Yes, all the sessions are recorded, Omar. Right. So that's all the questions that I'm seeing for now. If you do have another question, feel free to put it in the chat. I'll stay on here for just a bit longer. I know we've gone over time here, but hopefully we've covered enough with the tips, the strategies, and also about our master's program. I don't see any more questions. So thank you to everybody who participated. Thank you to everybody that was here. Hussein says, wonderful, thanks, dear, for answering the queries. Thank you, Hussein. It's me who thanks you. It's me who has used your valuable time, and hopefully I've delivered the value that you were looking for in this webinar. So really very much thank you. Phil, thanks. Long time since I saw you. Yes, would be great to catch up. Absolutely, Phil. Let's set that up. Let's set that up soon. Right. So with that, I'm going to wrap up, and I will say thank you. I will say keep motivated, keep committed. If any of the strategies that I mentioned today work for you, let me know. Put them in practice. Reflect on everything that I mentioned today. Take what is useful. If there was something that perhaps doesn't identify with you, well, don't necessarily take it upon. But for the most part, everything that I've talked about here is proven. It's based not only on my experience, but the experience on many of the people that I've coached, that I've mentored, that I've trained, and that have seen success. So, take that on. And if you are looking to do a program to accelerate all of these pillars that I talked about, expanding your knowledge, amplifying your network, gaining experience, having mentors, if that's something that you want to have packaged and done in one specific, one-stop shop. Our master's program is designed for that. So think about it. If you're interested in applying, we'd love to see your application come through. We'll review it, and if it's the right profile that we're looking for, we'll bring you on board. And if for any reason you're not admitted, we'll tell you why, and we'll give you feedback. And we're not just going to reject you without telling you why. But hopefully, we see your candidature come through, and we still have a few spots remaining up until the 16th when we kick off. So there's still a few spots left, and our youngest person on the cohort is 19 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, there's very many senior people, 35, 45, even a 50 plus candidate. So we don't discriminate or discard anyone. So hopefully we see you apply. I mean, it would be wonderful to hear from you. This is a picture of our offices in Barcelona. If you're ever in Barcelona, pop by our office. We have an open door policy where we meet as many people as we can with an appointment. So let us know if you're in the city. And of course, if you're in the program and you're coming to the graduation, this wall is going to look very familiar to you once you're there and you join us for the graduation. Right. I won't go on any further. Have a wonderful evening, day, afternoon, wherever you're connecting from. I look forward to hearing from you. And for now, all the best and see you very soon. Take care, everybody. Until next time, all the best. Bye-bye.